and thank you for joining us for the October 5th Board of Selectmen's meeting. Everybody rise to the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under announcements this evening, I'd just like to announce the Historical Society has a presentation this Thursday night at 7 p.m. at the Grange Hall on the West Road, and it's about the villages of Waterborough. For appointments this evening, first appointment of the night at 6 p.m., we have Road Commissioner Fred Fay regarding the Mast Camp Road.
Good evening, Fred Fay, Road Commissioner, Town of Waterborough. All this information that I've given you is figures I've had to come up with, so we got something that when I fax this to FEMA, they got something to work on, okay? And the recommendation for the, like I said before, for the culvert, his recommendation is to stay with the same size that was in there originally, which is an 8-foot opening. Don't reduce it, because in this information from Sebago Tech, it mentions in here that Kyle Hall from the state was down there and checked things out, and those two culverts on Route 202 are going to have to be changed sometime right off. They're too small. So that means if they do that, then if we replace this one, we won't have no worries. Okay? So I'm going to give this all to him tomorrow.
Okay.
I talked to him this afternoon, the gentleman from FEMA, and he says, get it to me just as soon as you can, he says, and I'll get my boss working on it, and I'll work on it with him, so.
Are they giving you any idea on what type of assistance they're going to give us with this?
No, they haven't. But after I give this to him tomorrow, I'll call him and talk to him after he has a chance to look it over, and see what happens. Okay?
And based on everything that Fred's given us tonight, we're looking at a replacement cost of almost $22,000.
Yep.
It's going to be important we get some help from
Well,
from
I
FEMA.
think we're looking pretty good now on the, excuse me, on the New Dam Road, you know, on them culverts we put in next to John's property there in that ditch line. He's got the information for that, so we're going to get some money back on that.
Great.
How much, I don't know. He didn't say right off, but we are going to get some money back on that. Because he told us when we went up and looked at that, we would get money from it, back from it. See what happens.
Any questions about Mast Camp Road?
Yeah, how much do you think we'll, might get back on this Mast Camp Road? You think they're gonna fund the whole thing, or is it a 75-25, or?
I couldn't tell you, God. I won't be able to know.
What we've seen in the past is 75%.
Yeah. We'll see what he says tomorrow, and I'm gonna give him a chance to look it over before I contact him, you know, because he's gonna sit with his boss and go over this, so. Hope we can get a good figure.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Before you go running away,
What's that?
Hemlock Oak,
Yeah,
I understand that everything's in place except for the DOT permit.
he's gonna have the information on that tomorrow from the state. It has to be filled out and sent back, and that'll give him the permit to go down beside the road and across the road.
Okay. Because Joe Wagner was going to make some phone calls to expedite that permitting process.
I called Kyle from the state today, when I told Tom that this information will be coming to him tomorrow,
Great.
so we can get that straightened up.
Wonderful. And that's the only thing that's holding that project up. So,
The catch basins came in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, once you get this, once he gets that information, we get it back, I don't see no reason why it can't be started, because it's gonna take a while to get out there anyway. And, you know, the only problem is, you don't want a flood to show up when you're not finished, that's all.
okay. Any other questions for Fred? All right. Thank you, Fred.
Can Fred leave now? Because I know that Dancing with the Stars is on tonight for 1 hour, and I know that he likes that show very well, so I wouldn't want to see us delaying him any more than.
You don't come out at 9 o'clock tonight?
You're safe till 9? Okay.
So now that we all know Fred watches Dancing with the Stars, we'll move on to Chief Force. And we have an appointment with him at 6:15, or a little bit early, but
Okay. Well, thank you for the invitation to come in and talk about the fire prevention activities for this week. Given that October, the month of, is a lot of activities for us and probably a lot of other departments to communicate the message to the children of fire safety and what they should be watching out for and how to get out alive if sure they have a fire in their home. Anyhow, starting this week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at the fire station between 9 and 2 each day, we are open to the public to come in, and also to the Waterborough Elementary School for fire prevention tours, smokehouse demonstrations at the station, and a variety of other events that we'll be doing during the daytime hours. During the week of Wednesday, October 20th, and Thursday, October 21st, again between 9 and 2, we have a similar type of events. The public are welcome to come, bring their children down, and we'll have people available to kind of give them a tour and do the smokehouse demonstration. This year, we've been in receipt of materials and a costume demonstration from Chris Burnett again. Several years ago, we reduced our budget line for fire prevention to $250, which doesn't cover the materials that we use for the children that come in, but we estimate that approximately $2,200 was donated from Burnett Insurance Agency this year, again. Last year, as you know, we were here, we had a check presented then. MetLife has been very supportive in this process, and we've been able to purchase coloring books, crayons, pencils, and stuff for the school-age children to promote Fire Safety Week. So it's greatly appreciated, and it's a big help for us. Any questions from the board for fire prevention specifically, or?
No.
Feel free to come over, John.
Go
just
to the
John.
smokehouse?
Well, he was looking pretty excited about it,
Does
so
he get a special coloring book?
we'll take care of John. No, but if anybody wants to come over, stop over, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Chief, you gonna have anything over there on how to check your smoke detectors and, you know, the battery replacement and things like that?
We actually have batteries available as well, 9-volt batteries. That we've been doing a campaign for several years, so we'll have batteries available. And we do have sometimes a limited quantity of smoke detectors if people do need them. I'm not sure we have on hand currently, but sometimes time to time we do have that. But if anybody does have questions on batteries or smoke detectors, feel free to give us a call, 247-5299. Send us an email. Our email link is on the website, or simply stop in at any time for that.
Do we have a program where the firefighters will inspect in-home smoke detectors, or is that just too cumbersome?
We don't have a specific program in place, but we have been out, Mike Frazier with fire prevention, or even Captain Turge have gone out occasionally if there's a request specifically from a homeowner or resident renter to go out and inspect a problem they think they may have. And at times we have gone out and helped some of the elderly people swap out a detector if that's the case. But we haven't promoted that or advertised that we do that on a regular basis, no.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Certainly available.
With the cold weather coming, and people are going to start using pellet stoves, wood stoves, and whatnot again, you want to talk a little bit about the importance of making sure that they're installed properly?
In regards to the pellet stoves, wood stoves, follow the manufacturer's recommendations for each device or each appliance that you're going to be using. We'll update the website as soon as possible to reflect the current information available. And again, we have a lot of inquiries from homeowners to come out and inspect, to look at it. And the first thing that we go back to is, what is the recommendation from the manufacturer for the specific appliances being used? And we look at that, and we'll actually research that prior to making any decisions of what to recommend to the homeowner. Certainly, if anybody has any questions, give us a call at the station, and we'll schedule accordingly to come out to their home and look at the device.
Okay. Anything else? No? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, hearing a delegation.
Quickly? I'll be quick. Need to be put on the agenda for next week. We can, according to Owens. Thinks we're getting very close to being ready with the all the figures, okay? We've gone out and we've got all new prices. We went right through the cement, the jersey barriers, compactor, drainage pipes, the tanks, rebar, and the steel. There's quite a bit of money being saved there, in the whole total. But there's still a few things he wants to work out. So we should be done next week, by, for next week's meeting.
Okay, so is Owen coming in too, or just you, or?
He didn't say, he just said that.
You got it.
Okay.
Thanks, Clint.
Okay.
All right, and just like to acknowledge that Representative Wagner's here with us again this evening, as he usually is. Okay, under correspondence this week, we have a letter from the Little Ossipee Lake Association. This is in regards to a problem that the Lake Association saw off of Logan Circle. I passed this on to Patty Berry. Patty and myself did do a site walk on Thursday afternoon. What we noted is that the letter that we've received talked about a property specifically that was noted as having a problem, and it said that there was nothing in place to prevent erosion coming off of that property and crossing the road. It would seem that this letter was probably originally drafted in the spring, because in the spring that was an issue. However, since then, the property owner has indeed installed erosion barriers. And Patty and I both spoke to some of the property owners that are lakeside, and they said that yes, this was a problem in the spring, but since then it's been corrected and they've had no further problems. DEP has also been contacted, and they were CC'd on the letter, so they're going to come and take a ride out and check on it as well. But from what Patty and I saw Thursday, and then she went back out on Friday when it was raining, and it looks like the problem has already been resolved prior to us receiving this letter. So once Patty writes up a report, we'll send it along to the Lake Association, let them know what our findings were. Town Administrator's report. Nancy is not with us this evening. Selectmen's report. Anybody on the board?
I'm supposed to meet with the IRSU School District 57 Finance Committee tomorrow night to talk about recycling at all the schools with the two members that were there and the business manager are very interested and excited about the possibility. It's a long-term commitment, and it won't get started immediately, but we're looking at the elementary school as a beginning. So I'll know more tomorrow night on what they would like to do.
Okay. Anybody else? I just wanted to mention, I talked to Jerry a little bit earlier, and a couple conversations that I've had with folks that are concerned about the tax bills this year and how much they went up, and Jerry did say they've gotten more calls than usual this year. So I just wanted to put the tax bill into perspective a little bit. On the tax bill is a breakdown of what you're paying when you're paying your taxes. And for every dollar that you're paying in to taxes, 79 cents of that is for the schools. Another piece of it is for county, 4% is for county, and then 16% of it, or 16 cents on the dollar, is what you're paying into local taxes. So breaking that down a little bit, we keep hearing, the average home in the town of Waterborough is valued at $165,000. So your tax bill should be in the area of about $1,900. Of that $1,900, $1,500 of that is what's going towards the school funding. $77 of it is going to county taxes, and of that $1,900, $300 of that is what's going into paying into your municipal taxes. So for the $300, you're getting all of the services that the town provides. The town hall being open so you can come in, register your car, get your ATV license. It's maintaining our roads. It's what's running our transfer station, sand, salt, and all of the services that the town provides. looking at a house that's valued at $235,000, you're looking at an average tax bill there of about $2,700. And of that $2,700, $2,100 is what's funding the schools. $109 is going towards the county tax, and $439 of that is what's coming into your local municipality. So again, that breakdown is on your tax bill. If you look at your tax bill, it's going to tell you, 79% school, and it's like 79.6 or something along those lines. But the town raised $10 million this year in revenue for taxes, and of that $10 million, only 3.8 of it is actually funding municipal services. 6.7 or so is funding the schools, and then the rest of it is funding county government. So when you look at your tax bill and you see, wow, I've got a tax bill this year that's $2,000, just understand that that entire $2,000 is not going just into your local municipality. Actually, just 16% of it is. So I just, take a look at your tax bills. If you have any questions, certainly you can call Town Hall. But I think it's important that people understand where their taxes are going as they're looking at their bills this year.
Can I comment? That is true, okay? But it doesn't change the bottom dollar that the damn money still has to be taken out of your wallet or somewhere and found. I mean, it's a problem. And, I'm having a problem with my taxes. And I know a lot of other people are, so it needs to be scrutinized.
Anybody else?
Does anybody have any information on the money that, the federal monies that apparently the RSU 57 is going to be getting? I think it's something to the tune of $700, close to $800,000 as part of some federal monies that came forth. I had a question as to whether or not there would be any reimbursement to the local municipalities, because this amount of money wasn't figured into the budget calculations when we did it, so because it's something fairly recent. So
I did talk to Frank back. We had done a site walk on the middle school property a month or so ago, and Frank did say that they were getting some money, but I don't believe that there was any plans to reimburse communities for any of that. Now, it might get put into their surplus for next year, that hopefully we'll see a reduction next year.
That's the only place you'll see it, is if they've got additional funds that weren't planned for and not spent, there'll be some revenue.
if they carry over to offset next year's.
Yeah, but that's not uncommon from what they did this year, but it may be more available, but I'm not sure. From a statutory standpoint, how do they've got a vote of the 6 town citizens for a number to spend. I'm not sure that they can just, even if there's another revenue that comes in, they can spend any additional above and beyond that. Maybe they can, but I don't know.
Most of your federal money into education is earmarked towards specific programs, such as Title I, which is reading and math programs geared primarily for students in lower income families, and also special education. So most of your federal monies are tied directly to particular programs.
And I think this one had something to do with teacher retention, being able to keep some of the teachers that were going to be, let go. Mr. Wayne.
My understanding is that there was consideration given to using some of that money to cancel a furlough day or more. And one thing I looked into for the school district was whether or not the money could be used to incentivize early retirement, and it can. But I do believe that they already had set aside a certain amount for that purpose. So it might be something that could be offset and carried over. Those are the two purposes that I heard that they were considering the use of that money.
All right. Moving on, committee reports, Saco River Community TV.
Nothing happening there.
Nothing?
Nothing.
All right.
Really quiet.
And cable TV, I guess that's your cue, huh?
We're almost there. In the new franchise.
We're
the,
close. We're close.
Almost. Actually, I think since Tony Vigou's the chairman, and he's had 6 towns to work with, and we had all ours in maybe a month ago. Some of the towns have been a little slower. And so he asked for one more extension to November 30th to complete the new franchise. And hopefully we'll have presented it. Now, that doesn't mean that Time Warner Cable Company won't resist some of the things, but that comes next. But so a couple of things since I last talked to you about this. We had a ride-out. By that I mean I drove with a man from Cable TV, the Time Warner, through every road in town and found that we were about 98% covered. So we had put in that we wanted to have coverage on any road that had 10 homes per mile. So now we've changed it to all roads in the town to be covered. There was one little section of Middle Road that wasn't covered, and that was the only place we could find. And that had very few homes on it, so that's one change. David Lowe gave us all the equipment upgrades for in here and various other places, and so did the school system. The franchise fee stays at 5% of gross revenues, which is the top that we can get by law. So we're getting all we can get, which I think is around $75,000 a year, something like that. We've reworded the wording about the 4 local channels, the 2, one for Bonnie Eagle and one for Massabesic, and the one that's covering you here tonight and so on, such that Time Warner will not be able to drop any of them or change them to some other number way high frequency number, which they've been talking about doing. One of the problems is Channel 16 at Massabesic has not been used very much lately, and we're trying to work with them, but they've had reduction of personnel, and that's a problem. So Time Warner is saying maybe they should cut the channel out. We're saying no. We hope to keep it. And also put in that, currently there's free access on video and so on to the town hall and to the fire station and to the Massabesic schools and to the library. And we put in, because it's not covered now, to the new middle school and to the library when it's completed. So those are the changes, and hopefully we'll get it all through.
Great.
Okay?
Okay. Thank
I
you.
got one question, if you don't mind, sir.
Yes.
This channel 16 that you spoke of, was that the channel that the school board was broadcasting from?
Yes.
Okay, one of the things that they mentioned when we spoke to them, because we had some people in the town had some concerns thinking that it was the Board of Selectmen that could tell the school to, broadcast, and kind of let them know that that's not within our purview, that that's the school board. And one of the things that they mentioned was that they said that it wasn't cost effective for the school to broadcast the school board meetings because all the 6 towns that comprise RSU 57 didn't have access to that channel.
True.
And I'm wondering if that is something that can be looked at to make sure that all 6 towns have access to that channel 16?
We've tried. What we've done is we've said, over the years, that we would take the video of the meetings and take them to the other companies. You see, Alfred has a different system, and Shapley has a different system, and so that's the problem. There's, I think, 3 systems involved. The system we're under here only covers Limerick and Waterborough. And so that's part of the problem with the Channel 16, that they have 3 different systems. We've offered to do this and try to do it, but somehow or other, they've not had the personnel to work with us on it.
There hasn't been any movement on it. Okay.
So I guess we should offer again.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to new business, discuss vote purchase of winter sand. Fred provided a couple of figures for winter sand. 2 options, FR Carroll will hold the price from last year, which was $3 a yard, and we purchased last year 1479 yards, which was down considerably from 2008, 2009. And then we have an option of going with Foglio, who gave a price of $4.25 a yard. Fred explained to Nancy that with Foglio, we would be saving the trucking time.
You say 4 miles, but how much time, I don't know. That's something I'd have to check, Dennis just mentioned that.
How much are we going to need to purchase this year?
Well, you probably have to put up at least 2,500 yards to start with. You know, there's still quite a pile of sand down there. Of course, that all has to be rolled over and remixed, but still, it's, you know. Maybe a little more, but I'm gonna say 2,500. Might go to 3,000, but I don't know. See what old man, the thing of it is, you gotta see what old man Winter's gonna give you.
Do you know roughly how many trips that would be?
Well, I don't know if you could make 2 trips against one from Limerick, or 2 trips from Doug's against Limerick, I don't know. I'd have to, that's something I'd have to find, check. I think it would be pretty close, you know.
I guess I'd like more information on the savings. I mean,
Yeah.
just
Yeah, because
The
if
vote.
you look at it, if you buy 7,500 yards, there's $9,375 difference in the price. So you got to make up $9,375 in trucking, right? So I'm not sure if you calculate that out of, I mean, how many yards are you hauling per truckload, right?
12 to 14,
So call it 13, so
Okay.
that's a lot of truckloads to get 7,500 yards, right? That's 580 truckloads.
At how much per truckload?
You're saying $4.
Yeah, but that's
gonna
just
pay for the
the
trucking.
cost of the material. That's, now you're talking about how many truckloads have got to haul, and what do we, you said we used, what, 14,000?
1,479.4 yards last year.
1,479?
Yeah.
So 1,479?
Yeah.
So why would we get 7,500 yards?
what'd you say? I didn't say 7,500. I said 2,500
Oh.
or 3,000.
25, which would be 7,500.
I'm going,
Which would be
that's
7,500.
that's a heck of a lot more than what we did last.
It'd be
I said
$7,500 for the
2,500.
sand
Figure
through
3,000,
FR Carroll.
All right, so.
And be
so-
106
hang on,
through
eh?
Foglio. I mean, you're talking a difference of $3,000, $3,100.
With a total price of,
If we do 2,500 yards from FR Carroll, it's 7,500.
But you know, I mean, you get,
How much would it be?
you still get a,
10,625,
10,000?
yep. And we have budgeted 128.
so you gotta save $3,700 in trucking to buy it locally. That's half of what we're paying for the sand. Right? 2,500 yards, you'd pay $7,500, right, for the sand. Yeah, so you gotta make up $1.25 times 2,500, so it's 3,000. So that's,
Well, we'll put it on the agenda for next
Put
week,
it on
and
that.
can you get,
192 trips. You said it's what, 4 miles?
4 miles.
What's the total run?
Oh, the total distance, I don't know, I didn't measure the total distance. You mean from up there right to the
Yeah.
pit? I didn't measure it. The thing of it is, you know, once you get off from that road up there coming up through, then you're downhill most of the way coming down there, from Carroll's.
Yeah.
And you come out of Fogler's pit, and you've got a grade for a while. You're not gonna be, you know, not a bad grade, but you haven't got an uphill grade. All right, we'll do it
So-
next week.
yep, come in next week and let us know what the difference is gonna be. Thank you. All right, moving on. Next, discuss recommended Finance Committee procedures, and this is John's proposal.
The Finance Committee has, its function is pretty well defined in the whole budgetary process. We have a timeline. The Finance Committee knows when it's getting the budget information from the selectmen, what they're to do with it, and that they make recommendations to town meeting. So that's pretty well defined. What isn't defined as well is the piece from the charter that says that the Finance Committee will provide timely reviews and timely review of revenues and expenditures will be made to the Board of Selectmen throughout the fiscal year. Okay, so I'll say that again. A timely review of revenues and expenditures will be made to the Board of Selectmen throughout the fiscal year. That part right there is not defined as far as procedures and scope of what the Finance Committee is to do. What I've done here is tried to come up with a definition of that so that in the future, the Finance Committee knows what the Board of Selectmen is expecting with that, from that sentence in the charter, and then also gives it a little bit of a parameter as to what is not expected, and what the Board of Selectmen wants and what it doesn't want. So what I wrote down here is procedure. The Finance Committee will submit a monthly report to the Board of Selectmen, which includes a list of documents reviewed, including the date of the document, a list of citations associated with each document, placed under the following headings: either a question about a piece of something in the document, a concern, or a recommendation. If there is no citation, then it should be notified on the report that the report was reviewed and there's no citation, no comments on it. The chair of the Finance Committee or the chair's designee, under the direction of the committee, may submit potential citations to the town administrator by appointment. So this, if they've got some questions that they have, maybe the town administrator can answer it. It doesn't even need to come to the board. So if they make an appointment with the town administrator, this may answer the questions or allay concerns before it's submitted in the monthly report. The Board of Selectmen will review the monthly report from the Finance Committee, take one or more of the following actions: refer to the town administrator, give directions to the Selectman liaison member to the Finance Committee to communicate with the Finance Committee, or meet directly with the Finance Committee or a representative. So that's what I've seen as a process of timely review of revenues and expenditures, monthly review written to the board and a board response. So that in the past, sometimes the Finance Committee has felt that they have not gotten response from the selectmen. The response from the Finance Committee might have not been in writing. It might have gone over the internet, or it may have gone to a particular selectman. It may have gone to Nancy. There was no procedure set there. I have a note on here. The Finance Committee's sole direction is to be concerned with revenues and expenditures. Management of funds, personnel issues, or daily departmental functioning is not within the committee's charge. Individual members of the committee may respond to concerns as a private citizen and as any citizen might, but not as a committee member or a representative of the Finance Committee. So in there, when we've sometimes had problems, and it's difficult to figure out. You're working in a Finance Committee and you're going through expenditures, and you might say, okay, we don't agree with how this expenditure is happening. Okay, what then? Where's their purview to register concern? If it is a part of the, if it's the expenditure itself and how it is logged, or where the money comes from, or whether the money has been appropriated, it's within their purview to be of concern. If they don't think that the particular manager of that department is utilizing the funds correctly, or not necessarily correctly, but they have disagreements on how it is managed, that's not their concern. As a private citizen, they can bring that concern to us, but as a Finance Committee, they should, that is not their concern. So what I tried to do here is give them some direction as to what they do on a monthly basis when they're not budgeting, and what our expectations are from them, and then what their expectations are from us in return. Draft, as it says there.
Comments?
Has this been discussed with the Finance Committee?
Well, the Finance Committee actually said, we want to know from the board first what the board expects from us. And so I said, okay, I'll give the board something to work with here.
Yeah. I think one problem is the charter's direction, or definition.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think, I think what you've attempted to come up with, John, I think is reasonable. My caution is that, the expenditure, here's how I see it. The expenditures are made. Every Tuesday night, we sign a warrant. Expenditures are done, all right? There's a long process before it gets to here. We review it, we approve it. The end of the month, whatever reports are required are generated, and that gets handed off to the Finance Committee. So they're looking at expenditures after the fact, basically, right? So it's just a cursory review of, here's what was budgeted, here's what was spent, do I have any issues with it? I guess if no, then it comes back to us with a no. Everything is, if they have questions, then I think then it goes to, per your information here, it would go to the town administrator first, okay? I would say that would be the first step. If it had to go to this board to get clarification, that's fine. And then, I think, then it goes into the report. But what I don't particularly agree with is we're going to create a bit of a reporting cycle here that's after the fact. It certainly does give them awareness of what's going on, but unless there's a complete understanding of how some of those expenditures take place, that's going to beg more questions than answers. But I suppose that it at least puts it out on the table and says, okay, this is what's happened. If there are questions, at least now there's a process that we can utilize to go back through the administrator and then back to the committee. But
Yeah, I think that's part of the frustration of being on the finance committee, and that is, a lot of it is after the fact. What it does is it comes back as a complaint, when they come up with something that they don't agree with, it comes back as a complaining board, complaining about how selectmen do things, or the signatures that we made. And yeah, it's still after the fact, but what this does in a way is it scopes it to expenditures and revenues, and it gets it away from we disagree with hiring practices. Well, as an individual you might, but not as a finance committee. That's not within your scope. So it kind of gives a bit of a scope, and it's still a problem as far as on the committee, if there's an expenditure that comes up that they're unaware of, and they disagree with what account it's coming out of, it's already done. By the time they get it, it's 2 weeks old. So that's I'm not, and I don't know how to get them involved in that unless you have a finance committee member sitting in here reviewing warrants before we sign them, and that's kind of complicated. But because once they've done that, that member goes back to the committee and says, "I didn't agree with it," and it's still post-haste.
They have no standing to sign a warrant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and I guess I look back as, the charter is 10 years old plus. Whatever the words were that were put in there. Circumstances were a bit different then. We now, I think, put a whole lot of accountability on people like Matt and Clint and Mike and everybody else to manage their individual budgets through, ultimately, the town administrator. So the Finance Committee, relative to approving these expenditures, really doesn't have a standing. The approval becomes, or the recommendation becomes the town meeting exercise, right, or the budgeting exercise that we go through. But at the actual implementation or enacting or, implementing the budget and actually, performing those kind of steps really resides with the department heads, and there are two approvals above and beyond that. There's the administrator, and then there's the board. So I'm fine if there's a reporting mechanism that gets back, that gives them more information, it gives them a vehicle so that they have, a conduit to at least come back to the board or to the administrator saying, well, we don't understand, or we don't agree, or whatever the case may be. As long as everybody's on the page that it's already done, okay, it's kind of looking in the rearview mirror a little bit, right? So,
Indeed. I think here, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with our in reviewing our charter, as to whether the Finance Committee, after the Charter Commission goes through this and the vote is taken, whether there is a difference in how and how the charter defines the Finance Committee. But I'm thinking about getting them through this year in a way that I think there may be months where there's the report is, we reviewed the following documents and found nothing of concern or no questions. It could be like that. Or it could be, we have the following questions, we went to the town administrator, and we still have these following questions. And then you say, all right, we deal with those questions in open session, And you gave me, as a liaison to the Finance Committee, a directive, please talk with the Finance Committee, give us this, our response, or bring in a member of the Finance Committee or the committee and say, if you've got these particular questions, we'll give you 10 minutes to address the board with them.
So are you anticipating that somebody from the Finance Committee is going to come in and review the warrants after we've signed them? Or what documents are they going to be reviewing? Is it just kind of they're randomly going to pick things to review? Or how's that? I don't understand.
Well,
what
it
you're
says timely
reviewing.
review of revenues and expenditures. So the things that we get from the treasurer, I think they are getting that now.
They get the
But-
reports. They don't get like what we're seeing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get, that may need to be defined as to what are the reports that they're routinely given, and if they want to see other reports, what are available to them at request.
You know, I see all committees as an advisory agency. I mean, they don't have any authority to make decisions. I mean, they can make recommendations, but they don't make the final vote. And so I don't think they need to see the warrants personally. I mean, if it's public information, that's one thing, but I don't think we need to hand over the warrant to a Finance Committee.
Well, I mean, the charter says timely review of revenues and expenditures will be made to the Board of Selectmen throughout the fiscal year. So what does that mean? And what I did define it here as a monthly is timely. It's just, and then you say, what is a review of expenditures and revenues? So then we need to define what that is and allow them to do the job as given by the charter.
Because, I mean, they get the same reports that we get. You know, Julie sends us the reports every week, and, you know, it's the expenditures and revenues and whatnot. So is that what you're anticipating they're going to be looking at?
I mean, I haven't gone that far as to, and I guess, is to define that. You know, what is a review of revenues and expenditures?
And that's what you're looking for from us. You're looking for suggestions.
Well, I think what I did is gave you this for this discussion, to start this
Right.
discussion. It doesn't have to, you don't have to say, okay, we accept this tonight, but we might say, okay, what I've heard here is we need to define this and maybe put that in this piece right here. And maybe what I would need to do is talk with Nancy, and Nancy maybe with a treasurer, and finance committee member, what would allow them to do their job here. And maybe that's what I could need to come back to you with.
Okay. Any
Okay.
other questions, comments for John? Go ahead.
Aren't we on a bit of a slippery slope, John, when, I understand that management issues are clearly outside the purview of the committee, but to me, just listening to the conversation back and forth, I think that they're going to have some difficulty negotiating that fine line of reviewing the revenues and expenditures and having it be deemed as something that the committee does versus something that's more applicable for the private citizen. I think it's going to be hard to make that distinction. Some things, obviously, as you mentioned, hiring practices, that's clearly, outside the realm. But if they question an expenditure, isn't it in fact what they're charged with?
Yeah, I mean, that is difficult, and that's probably something that needs to continue, that discussion needs to continue, and be a part of ongoing process. A fire vehicle is bought, and we hear the presentation, and we have the money, and we okay it. Now that, the Finance Committee, and they have in the past come in and say, well, didn't go before town meeting, and we disagree with this. And that, I think, is their function. And they can disagree with that, and we're not going to get, I don't think we're going to get upset with them coming in and doing that as a Finance Committee. But then the next step might be is why did you why did you put on these people and not, and what are you doing with your nighttime people, and how to best use those people, and no, that's Matt's job, and that's a gray area, and that gray area is going to come up probably several times during the year, and we're going to have to make a decision on it as to whether that's something that we think they should be doing or shouldn't be doing.
I think
That's a
that-
difficult part of that committee.
I think that there are opportunities for us to engage the Finance Committee before the deed is done, so to speak. And an example of that is the fire station boiler. It's been presented to us that there's issues with the boiler. A, B, and C is going to have to be replaced. Do we need to do it right now? They're saying, okay, we've got to spend $9,000 this year and then next year. To me, that's an opportunity for us to engage the Finance Committee to say, okay, here's the problem. Do we invest the money now, or do we, make repairs and then budget for it in the future? Is it costly to do it that way, or is it going to cost us more in the long run if we piecemeal it back together now and have to buy a new boiler tomorrow? I think those are the opportunities that we have to engage the Finance Committee in discussions. And I think, years past, quite often we had Finance Committees members that were at the Selectmen's meetings. It seemed like the committee took turns with members. Dan Babb used to come in quite a bit. Janice Young was here quite a bit, and they sort of took turns. And I think it was easier to engage them in those conversations because they were here.
Yeah, and I think that's that needs to continue. I think this is a little bit different in just that that one sentence in the charter. But I think again, the communication, and that's probably as a liaison member. That would be part of my job, is to say, hey, we've got this issue with the boiler coming up. You might want to come to a meeting or watch it on television, and if you have a response on that, questions about it, come to the meetings when Matt is making his presentation and giving information. So we're getting all the same information, not trying to just always second guess our I think that some of the problems is feeling left out of that decision and second guessing us, and then that gets us a little irritated, and them too, and it's not a really effective way to do business.
I think John hit on a key element when he mentioned communications. I think by and large we have a systemic problem with communications that I know that in our discussions of goal setting and so forth, that's been one of the things that we want to try to make some inroads in, some improvements. And
Yep.
So I think that's a key element.
All right. Any other comments? So, John, you're going to go back and...
I'll go back and get a definition of revenues and expenditures reports.
Would it be appropriate to give that to the Finance Committee now for their input? They may have some thoughts on that would assist us in our decision-making on what points that we might want, and that would engage them early on in it.
Yeah, got a meeting coming up next week, no, the week after, next week, I think.
Okay. All right. Moving on, committee appointments.
Could we jump ahead one and get Jerry out of here?
We'll do committee appointments, and then we've got the abatement, so it should only take us a minute or so. So So we have 3 committee appointments in our packets this week. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd make a motion that we interview Mr. Neal and set that aside and pending that.
He's a returning.
He's a returnee?
He was on for years and he, because of work, couldn't for a while, and now he's available with them.
I think the thing is, most of us don't know him.
Yeah,
He made our voting.
I heard that.
And his attendance has been okay?
Oh, when he was on, he was great, yeah.
So,
But he hasn't been on for a while. There's a lapse, John, so
Okay.
he hasn't been required to attend. Is that correct?
right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't, but I'd like to at least put a face with a name
Yeah.
and know where we're going, so.
So I'll see if he can come in the next week or two. Okay. Any other actions with committee appointments?
Do I withdraw that motion, or?
I think that's just kind of been our standard practice. If we don't know him, we ask him to come in. I don't think a
We don't need it?
motion's
Okay,
necessarily
I'll withdraw that.
necessary. Okay. Anything else?
Well, I think we should either act or not act, so I'll nominate Dwayne Woodson for the Assessment Board of Review and Finance Committee.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay. Seeing none, the motion would fail for a second. Moving on, discuss, vote, sign abatements. We have several abatements this week, and going through our packets, Dennis had a couple questions on some of them and forwarded those to Jerry, and Jerry's here with us tonight, so he can answer any of the questions that were brought up, and we're looking at 1109, and then 3 that are related to business property. So Jerry, you have the questions, if you'd like to address them, please.
I assume you got the question.
Yeah, I got them at noontime, but I couldn't get back to the email for the
Yep.
afternoon. I got caught, as I told Tammy Jo, getting a few calls on a daily basis when I'm here, which is what I'm paid for to do, by the way.
Nope.
I think the questions you had, personal property, I'll take those because they're kind of easy. When people file, I'm talking from the ones that file business reports, like machinery and equipment, leasing equipment, computers, etc. When they file with us in the spring, that file stays until summer when I review them, and they really don't know the outcome of what the review is until they get the tax bill.
Yep.
So when they get the tax bill, it's like, they sent us something in April, got reviewed in July, shows up in the bill in September. So sometimes there are built-in inconsistencies, omissions, I hate to use the word errors, overlooked things, and so we're kind of repairing them. And I think the ones you have before you tonight are in that category. But you could pick any single one, and I could answer them if you wanted to get close to them.
Well, I think let's talk about 11-12. You know, the issue is the book total of the assets prior to depreciation was used, right?
Yeah,
I don't believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe that it's your responsibility to determine what the depreciated value of their equipment is.
well, we give them a standard form,
Right, but, and
and we
they,
hope they follow it.
right, and they come back and say, my computer equipment is worth X.
Yeah.
Right?
Line items.
Okay, it might have been purchased for A, but it's now worth B because I've got it on a depreciation schedule, right?
Right.
So the way that I read this is that they came in this particular case with the bank and said, we got $280,500 worth of assets at asset value, okay? And the way I read your note here is that, well, that wasn't depreciated. Well, that's not our responsibility to give them a depreciated number for their assets. That's their responsibility to say and qualify what their depreciated value is.
Yeah, it's done, what happens is the larger companies report in the same manner.
Yep.
They've, the Xerox of the world, I shouldn't use Xerox, but the larger, I can't use IBM either, the larger leasing outfits have a standard form that in the industry, if you look at all the large firms that send us a reporting form, they're almost like, they're all identical. They report the same way. The interesting thing, Dave, is that they use our depreciation schedule that we advise them to use.
Okay.
Dennis, I'm sorry, I called you David. So in the bank, if you're not careful, what's going to happen is they use book value depreciation. So what happens is when you have a computer that's online and it's been there for, say, 5 years, they're going to zero that thing out because the accounting department is telling them to do that. We will not accept a computer that's online and working to be zero. Our lowest value is 30% of the value. So if you got a $10,000 computer and you send it in to us and it's got a zero on it, I would send it back and say, that's a $3,000 computer because that's 30% residual. But we avoid all that by setting them in the spring the recommended depreciation table for each one. What happened in this case is I used the wrong column. The standard approach is to use the column to the right on the standard forms. And when you're flipping through these, I used the one that was not yet depreciated. So it was really my fault.
Okay. So, and I think that's what I was trying to get to. Is it them now getting a tax bill saying, whoops, I should have depreciated my equipment?
No.
Okay, so it's a matter of they gave us the information, we used.
Right. And what they were nice to do is to alert me to the fact that last year's report was slightly, well, it was less than this. And if I were to do it with the depreciated column, we found that there was a slight increase of maybe 8, 9, or 10,000.
Okay.
Would you say, Jerry, that a business has more leeway,
Has more what?
more leeway or flexibility for abatements than the private homeowner?
No, the personal property is, I don't want to say is a loose asset, but we don't really know, and I shouldn't say this too loud, we don't really know what comes in and out of town.
Well, I ask that because the abatements for the business is substantially, except for one, a bigger amount than the homeowner.
But it's all driven by personal property. It's not the valuation of that establishment, right? The real estate value for a business is the real estate value, right? That's on the same appraisal process, right, Jerry, that
Yep.
a homeowner is, only it's a commercial property. This is the contents within that business, right, which a normal property owner doesn't pay.
The homeowner is not
Homeowner
exposed to the personal property accounting system only because we don't put them in the same category. We depreciate some of our local concerns. They don't lease out large equipment, and they don't get involved with new equipment. And if they did, we would depreciate them ourselves based on our own depreciation tables. The ones from away, if there's no way for us to know what that piece of equipment is as far as its real value. We're relying on them because they're reporting it to us. And then we're also relying on them that they're going to depreciate it. We're almost like a monitor, if you will, to make sure they're doing it right, we think. And the state has no real guidelines on personal property in the state of Maine. We're just kind of doing what you would find in the neighboring cities and towns.
With the filing here, is all depreciation on the same timeline? Is it like, is there, or is, I mean, if I got a piece of equipment, let's say I was managing Hannaford's and I got a new freezer, would there be the same depreciation on that as I'd be on a computer and
No.
someplace else?
No, they
Or
would,
all, they all have the?
they all have their own. The
Okay.
computer, electronic media, they depreciate a lot quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, in 5 years' time, a computer has got hardly any value. We will again stick to a 30%.
So all-
Freezer will take a little more time.
So all businesses will get, when they're setting, when they're figuring their personal property, they have a list of equipment and what the depreciation schedule is on that.
Well, again, I try to use the standard depreciation tables, if you will, that other towns in the state of Maine are using, so that the people from way are pretty much from looking from within the assessing world in Maine, we're all depreciating computers about the same way, equipment that, like freezers and those kinds of things, in another way. They don't depreciate as fast.
So on 11-12 here, you're
Yep.
saying that the issue was your mistake, or that you put something in the wrong column, or?
Yeah, in fact, I brought it with me. It's this kind of a sheet. You can see that there are year by year in assets, and some of these things have been liquidated, and most of the time, the last row, although in this case, the last row is probably not on the last page. It's a case of me taking the figures off for the wrong row.
Is that the case with